There's a YouTube gamer that I enjoy quite a bit named RT Game. He's a 20-something Irish guy who's very good at video games, and he's charming and funny. I don't play a ton of games myself. I love me some Zelda, some NBA 2K, an occasional Animal Crossing, that sort of thing. But I do enjoy watching other people do a video game or two. But the thing that got me into RT Game Channel originally was his series on The Sims, wherein he does what we all love to do with The Sims, which is to fuck with them. Breaking video games is an art form. There are people who are really good at it. Some of them are hilarious, some are weird, and some are actually professionals. Like, part of the testing of video games is to see if you can make the game crash or violate the rules in a way that ruins the gameplay itself, or to find accidental Easter eggs in the program. But personally, I'm really into the people who like to design death traps for their Sims. When I played Stardew Valley, I made it my goal to sleep with and marry everyone in town at some point or another. I would ply them all with beers and fish that I caught and gems that I dug from the mines until we could get into bed. It's the natural order of things when it comes to gameplay to just kind of fuck with the system. For all of the futuristic hand-wringing in Michael Crichton's 1973 sci-fi flick Westworld, he doesn't really ever consider that in a virtual reality, we're often less interested in fantasy play than we would be in wrecking some shit that we know is not human. The movie deals with how we treat other human beings, even though we know that they're AI. And I think it mostly gets it because a simulacrum of humanity is an interesting crucible for the chemistry of morality. But also, how much can I get away with here? Like, if I'm allowed to just kill anyone, could I also dress them up in funny outfits? Could I talk to them about hang gliding? Could I teach them German through conversation? And how waterproof are they really? These are the things I'd want to know in Westworld. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
What's the best video game?
What's the best? I don't know. I'm the wrongest person to ask.
In your world, what's the best?
I mean, I don't play video games. I also do enjoy watching a spot of video games every now and then. So, I mean, true to the theme of this week's film, I do love Red Dead
Oh
Redemption.
yeah. Red Dead
Red Dead
was
Redemption, Raw Zombies,
mhm.
Red Dead Redemption sequel. Yeah, my brother plays it, and sometimes I'll just go over and be like, "Hey, show me. Let's dress up your character, and then go on an adventure."
That was actually what got me into that YouTube channel was his thing on The Sims, but I found it because when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, like a lot of big video games when they first come out, was kind of glitchy. And so
Mm-hmm.
people on Twitter were posting little videos of the glitchiness of the game, like just the horses like just shooting off into the sky for no reason. It was very funny to watch.
Oh no!
And so I started looking up other videos on YouTube for Red Dead Redemption glitches, and it was very funny. And then I ended up down the Sims rabbit hole. Um, I think I remember when it might have been like your first or second year in the Neo Futurists, you had a play about being a widow to, because I think your
World of
boyfriend at the
Warcraft.
time, yeah, your
Yes,
boyfriend was a World of Warcraft guy, and the new
very.
update or I don't know enough about WoW, but
Yeah.
the new version had just come out, and so
Mm-hmm.
you did this kind of old Western themed play where it's like you sitting in like a rocking
It
chair
was
and a
me sitting in
knitting.
a rocking chair knitting with the Ken Burns Civil War theme
That's
uh
it.
going on, and it was all in narration, and it was like, I sure do miss my boyfriend when he's not at work looking up how to optimize his mage or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah, that's
When then
awesome.
he's at home actively applying all the permutations that he had been thinking about all day long at work. And someday I'll get to have a conversation with him. Someday.
When he's
Someday he'll
back
come
from
back
the
to me.
when he's back from the war of
Back
World
from
of
the
Warcraft.
hordes.
This I don't know if we talked about it last week when we were picking this week's film or not, but neither of us had ever seen this. I think you saw
Yeah.
the HBO series,
I think I've seen almost all of the HBO series,
and I
and
have
it's
not.
great. It's
Yeah.
super great because I think it does what any reboot or redo or whatever, especially taking a film and then doing a series, it and especially, what, 30 or 20 years after the fact, after this, it really goes into so much more of the morality of it, rather than like, dope dope do, let's get into a bar fight.
Yes.
That's so great. This is the best day ever. And it's like, what do these machines feel about being dismembered and then put back together and then put back out over and over and over and over and over again?
I now want to watch the HBO series because I kept thinking about this movie, which is fine. But it pulls its punches. Like it
Yeah.
is a PG, it feels made for TV in its level of violence and sex and
Yeah.
deep philosophical thoughts on morality. It touches on them. It starts to touch a little bit on what it means to treat other people in a way, even if you know they're not human, but they look just like humans and act similar to humans. So, like, what is it that tips you over that you can mistreat humanity? And the movie doesn't quite get there on all of these
Yeah.
counts. So I thought, what if we could have true horror level of violence or sex or
Sure.
something like that? Because I think
Yeah.
that gets into a little bit more. I just kept thinking, I'm like, I kind of like, this sounds sort of gross, but I do mean this. Like, what is it like to fuck a robot, right? Like
Yeah.
that the movie doesn't really want to address that. And I'm
Listen,
curious as to how the plumbing works on these things.
the Tandy Newton character on the TV show is everything you need
Okay,
and more.
great. It's funny, there's a moment where one of the robot, the Miss Carey or whatever his name, who runs the brothel, the robot lady, she takes a giant swig of whiskey, and then later in the movie he dribbles some water on a robot and she short circuits. I'm like, I
I
don't
know.
understand the plumbing of these things at all, and
Yeah,
I
I
would
know,
like to
right?
know more.
Are you a pleasure bot?
So so just as a heads up for listeners who have seen the show and not the movie, I'm coming at it, both of them, sort of blind. So this is all sort of new to me. I also wanted to mention before we start talking about what's in this movie that I find it so fascinating that Michael Crichton directed this film.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this wasn't based off of a novel. This was a screenplay that he wrote. And this is his first feature film that he directed. It might have been, I don't know if he directed in anymore after this,
I
but
know.
he I just kept wondering, because what I know about Michael Crichton is that he is kind of the David Mamet, Jonathan Franzen world of writers, in that he was a very self-sure man. He was kind of a neoconservative late in life. I think through most of his life he was like my way or the highway sort of guy as a writer. And I'm kind of wondering what happens when you put a person like that, who comes from med school, goes right into being a best-selling sci-fi writer, and then now, why don't you go direct Yul Brynner with this attitude? And I
Yeah.
was curious what that was like.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I noticed that as well. This movie has a lot of setup, but not a lot of style.
No.
Like it's kind of letting the costumes and the set pieces do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
They're like,
know,
we found the Blazing Saddles backlot. We found the Roman orgy backlot. We found the medieval times backlot. And you know what? We're just going to put some actors in there and be like, okay, y'all are dead. Everybody lay down.
Yep.
There's no, like, there's not an overhand, there's not a directorial style to it. It's like, it's just, just shoot the thing.
Yeah.
And it lets the costumes and the sets and the actors sort of carry everything.
I had that exact thought. The note that I wrote to myself was that as a director, he's got his hands at 10 and 2 at all times.
Yes.
He's just a very safe driver.
Correct.
He is at the speed limit. He is signaling at all turns. There's no rolling stops in this. Like there's just, and probably to his credit, he's going out on his first feature film and not being reckless. This is the opposite of Maximum Overdrive, wherein Stephen King directed that film, and that was a reckless movie.
And threw everything at the wall.
And to Maximum Overdrive's credit, it's one of the craziest films I've ever seen, and I love it. So I think if you are going to err on one side or the other of safety or risk, I do think you have to be a little bit more risky than what this film
Yeah.
does. But
I feel like he had such a good concept, and they're
mhm,
like, you know what, we've got a great. And also, I was reading that this film was cast and shot in a very short amount of time.
yes.
Like this was almost considered like a B movie in
Mhm.
its, in its sort of the way that it was rapidly put together, and then it became like an unexpected kind of sleeper hit
Yeah.
because I think the concept is so intriguing.
Yeah.
And even though this is a film from, 1973, it's much like a lot of Michael Crichton stuff. It's really prophetic. The
Yeah.
ideas are so solid.
Hmm.
But as a film, I was like, yo, this movie's almost over. And the robots haven't even gone crazy yet. What
No.
what am I watching here?
It I
I'm just
this
watching a
feel
dude from Chicago on holiday, really.
this feels like a 1 hour episode or a 44-minute episode of like a Twilight Zone style anthology
Yeah,
series.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, a 60-minute anthology piece
Yeah,
for television
yeah.
rather than a 90-minute movie. It's got a
Mhm.
lot of padding in it for
It
just
certainly does.
um yeah. The I can't remember if I mentioned this on the show, but Mike Myers, the comedian, talked about in making Wayne's World, the studio was like, your minimum time for a movie has to be 86 minutes or whatever the time, 88, 82,
Mhm.
something like that. And they were like 4 minutes short. So they went back and added the Bohemian Rhapsody scene later, which is just them lip syncing the actual song and then headbanging in the
Yep.
car. And it's one of the more notable scenes in that movie where it's such a throwaway concept, but it's endearing and it's cute and sweet, but it was absolutely just literal time filler. Like
They're like,
we
we
had to get the
just have
movie
to hit
to
a
this level.
quota.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about Westworld. We,
Westworld. Well, I think there's a very important question we have to
yeah.
ask right up front. Jeffrey,
Hmm.
Westworld, Roman world, medieval times. Where do you go?
I think the way they describe them, I'm more interested in Roman world because they made it sound kind of like lusty and indulgent,
Yeah.
like a yeah, it sounded more like Lysistrata, but we all came back from the war, sort of thing, right? It just feels, I know that's Greek, but still, like the whereas like medieval world and Westworld both seem to be focused on lawlessness and fighting and
Yeah.
sword fights and gunfights and shit like this. And Roman world, it just looks like they're feeding each other grapes and touching their privates. And I'm like,
Yeah,
let's
that's
do
it.
that one. Yeah.
Just pure orgy.
Yeah.
Total orgy.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, medieval times seems okay, but also like, it is very much feasting and carousing, and maybe
Yeah.
there's a joust later. Yeah, I'm not really into that. Roman world looks like an awful lot of fun,
Uh-huh.
but after you've like had sex with a robot, then what do you do for the next couple days?
Yeah, that's true. Are you
So I
sitting
think,
around listening to like philosophers, or are
yeah, I
you
know, right?
getting
They're
overrun with
like,
like Julius Caesar bullshit? I don't know.
yeah, they're like, go become a Patreon. Um, yeah, I think Westworld for me.
Yeah. You get to drink a lot of whiskey and shoot some guns and
Yeah,
do some right. You get to ride horses. That I think may be one of the
right.
bigger things.
Robot horses.
Robot horses, robot snakes. I love it.
Yeah.
So we get this newscast for Delos Travel or whatever this company is called.
Welcome to Delos.
Delos. Um he's interviewing he's interviewing all these people who are getting back from their travels to Delos, to one of these three worlds. And I love these opening interviews. Like this one rando dude is like, "Hey, oh, you remember playing cowboy as a kid? It's just like that." Oh,
Except when you go pew pew pew, people actually die. I mean, not people. I don't think they're people. I don't think I killed anybody. No, I didn't kill anybody. Did I?
One of the guys was like, I was the sheriff of Westworld for the last 2 weeks. It was great.
Which, as we learn, like the sheriff is like the lowest person on the chain of command.
Yes.
Which you're like, okay, you sound
Well,
like you have a very uneventful life that you need to be in charge of something here in
I
Westworld.
I had this deep question, which I think is intentional in the movie. But we open with this guy saying, "I was the sheriff of
Yeah.
Westworld for the 2 weeks I was there as this human tourist into Robot Town." And then later, when we're in Westworld, there's a whole like prison escape of these two
Yeah.
boys having their good time, and they shoot the robot sheriff. And that robot sheriff later gets replaced by a human sheriff. And I just
Yes.
thought, I guess they're playing with the like, how do you know what you're shooting? Like,
Right?
are you going to be accidentally killing another patron?
Yeah. It cut like it, and eventually he does, like, we get to that answer. They're like, oh yeah, just shoot me with that gun. It totally doesn't work on humans. But I'm like, yeah, but that chair you just threw at another person, that looks like that would hurt.
Uh-huh.
Or the
Uh-huh.
person you threw out the window. Like,
Woof.
was that a person or a robot? And are you sure? What? Huh? We
Yes.
need to talk about protocols here.
Also, just a world in which robots are getting constantly destroyed and shot and blowed up. And I just think about how hard it is to fix an iPhone that you accidentally get some water on.
Right? Yeah.
And just how expensive it is. I'm like, how much money does this place have? Like $1,000 a day from every patron ain't gonna cover the cost of this robot medical center that
And they're
they
having
have.
to fix it snake by snake,
Yeah, they're doing
horse by horse.
full surgery on a snake.
I was like, this, I don't know, you guys. I feel like your time could be better spent. And also the idea of like, there's a lot of stuff. There's so much. There's so
Yes.
much. But
Yeah.
it's a great concept. But once you start picking at threads,
Yes.
sometimes great concepts have a tendency to fall apart a bit.
Yeah. Just wear the sweater. Don't pick at the thread. It's gonna be fine.
That's right. Yeah. Or else you find a giant hole.
um, so he says, this announcer news guy's like, so take our hovercrafts to medieval world, Roman world, or Western world, only $1,000 a day. And then we cut
Only
to
$1,000.
credits, opening credits, and then we see, I loved the hovercraft going to Westworld because it's set up like old school airplanes, wherein like first class cabins had like couches and full weight, full meal and weight service and all that kind of shit.
I mean, it's so luxurious.
Yeah, it's very it's of the TWA era of flying.
Oh yeah, for sure. But also it reminds me of like this movie is so prescient in the idea of Harry Potter world at Universal Studios, Star Wars world at Disney. This idea of an all-inclusive experience in which you are either given a character or you change, like they're like, okay, everybody, all right, we've docked here at the central hub. Everybody get naked and choose your costumes, which to me, that's half the fun.
Yes.
I was like, y'all just ran right through this. I was like, you only have one kind of blue jeans? Come on. Yeah. I have seen character modifications on Red Dead Redemption, and that shit will take me an hour to put together the proper look for, not even for me, just for like a video game avatar.
Yeah.
If it's me, I'm like, no, I want more options.
Yes.
This does not suit my character.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is where we get into your thing about the movie lacks like a directorial style, wherein, where the director says, I'm interested in something more than just the theme of the movie. I'm interested more than just like the plot mechanics.
Yeah.
I really want to have fun with the costuming, whatever. Yeah, and actually, when you bring up like Harry Potter world, Disney World, all that kind of stuff, the $1,000 a day sounds like a hell of a deal, actually, given what you get to do here. And
I wonder what that is in 1970. Well, this is the 70s, so money was like nothing.
Different. Yeah. But even still, I'm just thinking about like how much it would cost to take a family of 4 for a day to Harry Potter world.
Sure. Never mind the butterbeer and the wands.
Yes.
Then once you're there, you got to buy all the trinkets and you have to eat.
Or it just ended up on some website that's just trolling because you type in $1 1973 and it says that is worth $6 billion today. Like, no,
What?
no, no, no. Sorry.
I don't think you're correct,
I
internet.
know. Internet. So we get to
We meet
Westworld.
John and Peter.
John and
John and
Peter.
Peter are our main guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're it's interesting. We've got old fish and new fish.
Yeah, so John is played by James Brolin. So
Yes.
definitely your square-jawed, handsome Hollywood-looking guy. Josh Brolin's dad, I believe.
Yep.
Right? And so you get the look there. And John is more of your quiet, handsome type.
Well, that's
like
John. That's John.
That's John. And John is more your quiet, handsome type who's been there before. He's done Westworld.
Ah, gotcha.
And metaphorically speaking, he's been there before. Like he's a guy who kind of exists in his own confidence.
Yeah. He doesn't need to listen to the instructional video because he's already seen it.
Mm-hmm. Peter is more of your like accountant type body. He is smaller. It's got a mustache. He's a little bit like more nervous. He's coming off of a divorce. We'll learn soon that was kind of rough because I think he doesn't want to be divorced. But yeah, he's really into. So do they give you real guns? He's like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what about that thing where you run your hand over the top and you fire a lot of bullets? He's fanning. Yes. Do you get to do some fanning? You do. It's a lot of that. Great.
Do you get the gun holster with the strings or without the strings? I mean, I want to be the best quick draw ever.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you don't get the strings? Okay, maybe I won't get the strings. It actually reminded me a lot of some of the scenes in Saw. No, not Saw. Hostel.
Yes.
You remember where like our main character in Hostel kind of escapes and gets to see the locker room, and he's having the conversation with the American who's like, did you just come out? How was it? What weapon did you use? What kind of person did you go for? Did you make it last a long time or like quick or like what? You know, it's very much that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of it's man talk.
Yeah.
It's like will this racket give me the edge over my business partner when we play racquetball?
Yes.
Well, if he's better than me, then maybe it's the racket that's wrong, and I need a better racket. That's the only reason that I'm not competing with Tom from accounting.
Mm-hmm. There's a moment in this orientation audio that they have to listen to that there's a kind of older or middle-aged couple behind these two boys, this married couple, and as they're saying, you know, the orientation is kind of giving you the thumbnail of each of the three worlds, and they say Western world is a world of lawless violence.
Oh, delightful.
And then you see the two of them kind of look at each other like, and then it says medieval world is a world of romance and chivalry. And you see the ladies, you know, lady kind of smiles and the guy like looks at her like, yeah, that's it, right? And then it says Roman world is a lusty retreat, and you see him kind of eye her like, what do you think? And she
is lit up.
Yes. So good.
Yeah, I wish that, you know, I don't understand why they had these other characters. Like
comedic beat.
They are comedic, but it's like I felt like this movie really did just kind of divide and conquer a little bit. I was like, man, just stay in Westworld. Just stay in Westworld.
I agree.
Like, we don't need to see this lecherous dude, you know, because I'm assuming what happens is she goes off to Roman world and he goes off to medieval world. Which the first thing he does is try to bang the queen, try to bang a serving wench. Right. He's on Rumspringa from his marriage.
Yeah.
Because he knows that his wife is at the Roman orgy. So he's like, well, fine, I'm gonna do this as well.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know. Can't we just like, let's stay in Westworld and answer some more questions there, shall we?
Yeah.
Because what?
I agree. It feels like it just needed to be just narrowed down to Westworld is all we kind of need here.
And then I liked seeing the aftermath. It felt very kind of constraints of time and budget.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, okay, we've got this fucking medieval set. We've got to use it. and
Yes.
more than just the big showdown in the end. We've got to set it up from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But having actual characters go there and following the exploits of middle-aged dude banker trying to sleep with robots, I was like, okay, can we just, how about we work on our main characters and their decision making things?
Yeah. So, they get to they get to Westworld, John and Peter, and they get dressed up to a montage of twangy music. Dick Van Patten inexplicably is there, being very brief moments of bumbly comedy, like physical comedy is kind of all
he's the
there
one who
for.
ends up as the sheriff.
As the sheriff. Yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't really serve much of a purpose other than just every time we see him, he's like another dude who's kind of bumbly. He shoots his mirror out in his motel room or whatever.
Because he's practicing looking tough.
That's right.
I mean, this movie in its essence is about performing masculinity.
You're right. Yeah.
And it's about a country in which, that was founded on these principles of like the men are square jawed and handshakes are firm, and if you knock somebody's whiskey out of their hand, you're going to end up with a bullet in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't really do that anymore unless you're at Westworld.
That's right.
So it really does tap, like, I found this movie in general to be like pretty, not chauvinistic, but like pretty male centered, shall we say. Characters, voice, tone, image, everything was like, do you feel bad that you can't punch a dude in the face and then knife him in the gut because you don't like the look of his shoes on the subway?
Yeah.
Well, that feeling is appropriate, and we think that you need a place where you should be able to.
Yeah, agreed. Surprised Michael Crichton came up with this concept. So they get to the bar and they meet Yul Brynner. They meet the gunslinger.
Yes.
Yul Brynner.
Jeffrey, have you ever seen The Magnificent Seven?
I never have, actually.
I've not either.
I would like to see that.
Which I feel, very remiss, but like Westerns are just in general, like, whereas the horror genre is something that I gravitated to, Westerns are anathema, like the opposite.
Yes.
Like in my 20s, I'd have a friend show me the Western genre and like explain it to me in the same way and then I did the same thing for musical theater for him.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh God, these are, because it's it's okay. But for a gay boy, you're just like, boys being boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you look real tough. You should hey, did he just knock your you should say something to him. You should, what, you should go over there and make a fight. Go fight.
Yeah. But
it's like all the bullshit I'd spent my entire life trying to escape from.
But I will say that in this scene in particular, when we're introduced to the gunslinger, he has a couple of really good lines. Like, because this is the closest this movie gets to camp. Yeah. Wherein Yul Brynner just kind of like very dryly reads this dude. So he says that Peter's, "You're sloppy with your drink, boy." And then he tells the bartender, "Get this boy a bib. He needs his mama." I love those. Those are good.
"Hath thou insulted my manhood, good sir?"
Yep. So John is like, well, you know what you got to do. And so they draw guns. He shoots the gunslinger, shoots him a couple times, drops him dead. There's fakey blood pouring out of him, and he gets hauled away.
But Jeffrey, the fakey blood looks just like the real blood in this movie.
That's true. Fakey
again.
70s fakey horror blood. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like liquid lipstick red blood. But again, it just goes back to the confusion of like, who is real?
Yes.
Like, I mean, obviously this dude is a bot. Like a text conversation with him is like, is very much like, oh, this is he's saying, which I love it. This is the first interaction with a robot other than like, I think like the guy that checked them in. That's like, I just work here at the hotel.
Yeah.
And he pays him a coin and we get to see the weird hands, which again, the weird hands, not that weird.
No, No, not at all.
Like you should be able to immediately tell who's a bot, and not by shooting them.
Yeah. This movie makes me think of, there's a TikTok meme wherein somebody shows a video of somebody doing something sort of dangerous, typically in a work site, and then there's a song that they play over it, which is "Come with me and you'll be in a world of OSHA violations."
Oh no.
And I just kept thinking of that song throughout this movie, of like, there are so few safety precautions in this film. And
Yeah.
the hand thing that the robots are branded on their hands, I'm like, that's not a noticeable way to immediately tell robot from human. And I think
No.
in a real world thing, we're using laser tag style guns, and humans are given essentially like highway worker vests. Like,
Yeah.
you have to do something.
But it's also like, why are you even using real guns? Like guns that shoot bullets to like rip through the machinery that you then have to repair every goddamn night.
That's right. Because we want these men to feel like real men.
That's right. It's got to go boom
It's
real
got to go
loud, or
boom.
else
They
it's
got to feel
not.
a kickback. They got to see blood pour out of a body.
I do like when Peter is like, he's like, oh, a Colt 45. Is that a hard one? Is that a heavy kickback? Is that a hard one? Should I go for the cannon, the Dirty Harry, or should I start with the Derringer?
The Derringer's always a good one. That's a good gunfight gun. Classic. So they go to the brothel. They pick up a couple girls.
Yeah.
And
In the most like, again, like there's so much like room for fun that could have been had, and yet it is such dad fun.
yeah.
You know, like dad goes on vacation and all dad wants to do is beat people up and have sex and get
Yes.
drunk and then repeat.
Yeah.
Those three things on repeat.
Yeah.
That is your dadcation.
I think there's a thing too where, like, I started during the brothel thing, I started thinking about like I'm just so curious as to like what happens in conversation with the women, because he tries to have a conversation with this woman. I'm like, there's not a sex worker who's an actual human that really wants to hear you talk right now. And two, like, let alone these are robots. And I'm just sort of curious, what is their like, how far can their AI go? You know,
Right?
you're like, hey, big boy, you want to have some fun? What are you drinking? I'm like, it's my own cum.
Yeah,
You know, like, you could
yeah.
say just the
You could say
craziest
anything.
shit.
You're gonna
And I'm
love
like,
the TV
how
show.
will it respond?
You're going to love the TV show because the TV show gets into that.
Okay.
Yeah, this idea, and I think they have a I think it's before the shit hits the fan in the film. But you know, one of the downstairs people is like, we don't actually know how these robots work. We just sort of turn them on and they just live. And I was like, you don't know?
No.
No?
Okay.
Well, gosh, you probably should have figured that out before you invited real live people to your amusement park. I mean, soft open would have been great. It's so funny. Like the similarities between this and Jurassic Park are so similar. Like there's so many parallels.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of lessons were learned in Westworld that would then be corrected in Jurassic Park.
One of the biggest lessons is get Steven Spielberg to direct your movie instead of Michael Crichton.
Right, which Steven Spielberg is not all style, but like his style is so palpable.
Yes.
You know, he's like, I am going to show you exactly what you should be looking at, and it is going to be scary, and it's going to be funny, or it's going to be heartfelt.
Yes.
Through the Steven Spielberg style, which is, you know, just like masterful. But
yeah,
but I feel like theoretically, like a lot of the theories, the ideas that were presented in Westworld would then get sort of hammered out a bit.
Yes.
The idea of like, I don't know, maybe we should get the dinosaurs all figured out before we start letting people loose, you know, which is why we're watching a soft open in Jurassic Park and not just like a normal day.
Yes.
You know, I was thinking about this idea of like when you go to like in a film or whatnot, when you go to a big concept thing, And there's two ways in. You either go in through the front door or the back door. And this movie, it takes us in through the front door.
Mm-hmm.
We are with Peter and John. We literally start with a commercial. Like, you and I out here, just average citizens, were like, gosh, wow, Westworld sounds really interesting. Let's go through the experience of getting off the helicopter or the helipad.
The hovercraft.
Your hovercraft, get your ticket punched, go through the thing, go through the turnstiles, or the idea of going through the back door, which is like starting with, what does it take to make this whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
And then you sort of, and the people are going to act like people pretty regardless. And I think the TV show does that as well. The TV show is much more centered on the shenanigans and the craziness going on behind the scenes than it is on the sort of customer experience of like, wow, I get to shoot a gun.
Uh-huh.
Whoa.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. At night after their first full day, we do get to see some of the backdoor activity, right? Like of the crew coming out, driving their trucks out to clean up all the dead robots in the street. This is great.
Is so eerie. It's so spooky, and it's all the like, it's this sort of Western set.
Yeah.
But then with these like harsh halogen lights that seem so out of place. And
giant like cargo vans and men wearing coveralls and like little black wool caps, like long, like workers, right? Like, and they are
just picking up bodies after the nightly bank robbery.
And they take the bank robbery is great because the whole time they're sleeping, they're getting it on with these in the brothel. There's just gunfire going on in the background because there's a bank robbery happening.
And newbie Peter's like, a bank robbery, that could be fun. And John's like, it happens every night. 7. It's like the fireworks at Disney World. They're like, you can go through the electric light parade. But they do it every night. We'll catch it tomorrow.
So we do get a glimpse in this like hospital-like environment of them repairing all the robots. And we've got main science guy who's kind of the foreman of the operation, walking around checking it all. It's a supervisor. And we're hearing about repeated central malfunctions. And this is a thing that Michael Crichton is really good at, is creating a science that makes sense in the world of his novels or in the world of his movies. Jurassic Park, you can pick apart, I know because I've read people pick it apart for its science in the actual world of science, but in the logic of the movie it all makes sense. And in here I love the differentiation between central malfunction and peripheral malfunction. They don't go into a lot of detail, but it creates the way in which we actually think and problem solve. Like, what is the real problem? Like, a peripheral malfunction is something wherein something outside of the robot caused it to malfunction. It got shot. It did something, whereas a central malfunction is something in the programming. So
like the problem is coming from inside the robot.
The
robot. Literally somebody calls them a robot at one point. The robots have lost control. And I was like, oh no, the robots.
Are the robots.
Sears and robots.
So they apparently started ramping up in Roman World about 6 weeks ago. These robots started having more and more central malfunctions. And then it like spread, they sort of say, like a disease. It spread like to medieval world and now to Westworld, like a virus.
But I love the way they went. They're like, we changed some of the internal humidity. So like, I guess they like did some temperature control and that sort of solved the problem.
Yes.
So they just turned up Westworld by or Roman World by a couple of degrees.
Yeah.
Made it a little less humid. They're like, I think it just has mold. The cables are just getting a little moldy.
I love this line. I wrote it down from the supervisor guy when they're talking about how is this like can there be a disease in machinery? Yes, we have viruses. But he says we're not dealing with ordinary machines here. In some cases, they've been designed by other computers, so we don't know exactly how they work, which is a really prescient way of thinking about AI, which is where we're at now when we talk about ChatGPT or whatever. I'm like, the computer, it's a recursive function. It starts feeding itself, and it starts creating, which I mean, fuck, I just tried to look up a currency converter and ended up on a website that just is not, I think, deliberately malfunctioning, probably created by a troll, somebody being funny, but also whatever. Anyways, I think this is really fascinating, though, that he's talking about the computers creating themselves. And
So we the humans are left out of the loop.
yeah.
So which again, it's like, why do you have to go in there and have like 6 scientist doctors fixing a single snake when you can just make repair robots?
Uh-huh.
Why? No. But
Mm-hmm.
then do you even understand what the repair bots are doing? Or the repair bots going to be like, you know what you need? We need laser snakes.
Yes.
And you don't even know what's going on because this AI robot is like, yeah, laser snake sounds like a very good solution to this problem. Engage.
So the next day, we're getting bathed and shaved and all that kind of stuff before going back out into Westworld. Peter and John are, and Yul Brynner, the gunslinger, shows back up in John's room.
Weird.
And it's Peter that hears a commotion in there, busts in and shoots the gunslinger dead, and he flies out the window.
Out the window.
The robot maid, screams bloody murder. And
but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And then Peter gets taken to jail. He gets taken to jail, which also doesn't matter. Little. But also, it's such an easy workaround because John just sends a woman over with breakfast.
Explosives
and some dynamite or whatever, some TNT. Yeah. And the sheriff's like, sure. Yeah, you can random woman, you can give him breakfast.
Right.
So he blows up the reconstruction every day. How expensive is this?
Yeah.
Blows up the wall of the cell. They shoot the sheriff and ride away on horses. Awesome. Living the dream. Living the masculine dream.
Oh my God. Not getting caught for anything. No responsibilities. No accountability. Just like, my friend was in jail, so I busted him out. And now, Lord, here we are in the beautiful countryside.
It's so funny that what they choose to do is to go hang out in the mountains, in the desert hills.
Which is such a you could do that in real world.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, you're paying $1,000 a day. And you know what is $0 a day is just to go to New Mexico.
Yeah. National parks.
And go to a national park and hike.
And if you want to put on a cowboy hat, you can do that.
Yeah. And so anyways, they're sitting out in the middle of this desert scene, and a rattlesnake approaches them. And these guys are terrible shots.
Oh, my Lord, Jeffrey, they are like 2 feet away from that thing.
Yeah. And the rattlesnake bites John. This is a very comical scene because the rattlesnake stays latched into his arm as
and he's just like flipping
James
it around.
Brolin is flipping it around.
Jesus, just like pull the fucker off. Damn.
Yeah. It's so interesting though that they sort of naturally are like, well, that's definitely a robot before they even get it cut open.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, listen, if that's a robot, you're fine. If it's not, I mean, because this looks like real outdoor world, so there's probably non-robot snakes out there too.
Yeah. Like, where is Westworld located? Do you have walls around it? Like, have you cleared out all? I mean, it's like a lot of the stuff they'll get to in Jurassic Park. Like, what happens when you try to put fake nature on top of real nature?
Mm-hmm. So, I will say one of the things I like is this concept of video surveillance is really interesting in this film. And I think it's very frightening and super prescient as well. This idea that there's a command center that is making sure things operate, but also they're just as concerned with the guest experience. So it's like, Black Knight ready, Black Knight go. Like it's like being a stage manager for a show. Yeah.
But the idea that there's an eye in the sky observing every single actual person in these 3 places, and they're sort of curating the experience person by person by person. That is like one, terrifying, and two, like cutting edge technology for like 1973. Like this is back when TV cameras were like the size of like couches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know? So the idea that somebody is watching you act out your most illicit, violent, transgressive fantasies that you then enact on these robots, there is still a person up there being like, well, they're okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, they've just beheaded another prostitute at the I guess we gotta send an extra cleanup crew for this dude.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. There's so many directions you can go in this film about people's behavior. God, like what kind of psychopaths show up for this? Like when you say like beheading a prostitute, like literally when you're talking about like something like Grand Theft Auto, the way that made its way into mainstream conversation was the way in which the game would allow you to just murder sex workers and just anyone, but like
grandmas,
the misogyny
dogs,
of just
people,
like hiring a sex worker and then murdering her is like terrifying behavior. But it's also a thing where like it's one thing in a video game, it's another like, would somebody show up at Westworld just to do that? And how would the staff feel? Like, what are the rules?
Check out the TV show for more.
Okay, great. I'm asking the right questions that will be answered for me if I just watch the show.
But it feels anonymous in a way that video game violence like feels disconnected. But in fact, it's not. There is some dude, and I like the interstitial chatter coming from the command center that's like, do y'all have cinnamon buns? Yeah, can I get a cinnamon bun delivered down?
Yeah.
I'm, like, oh, we need to get this back. Like it feels like kind of, you mentioned TWA, but it feels like being in the control tower.
Yeah.
In which these people are like, violent sex. We gotta, whatever the guest experience is, we just gotta just make sure everything is running smoothly.
Yeah. Well, things aren't running smoothly because not only does the snake malfunction, but so does the Black Knight in Medieval World. So
does it though?
It's so funny because so we're following this like middle-aged guy I think it's the same guy that we met early on the hovercraft, or roughly the same guy, and if not literally, metaphorically. But he's sleeping with the queen, and the queen is like, but the Black Knight seeks a duel with you. Meanwhile, he's also like aggressively moving in on this like serving wench named Daphne. So Daphne, as he keeps aggressing, she's like, no, and he keeps aggressing, and she finally slaps him and storms off. And we see that control room, and they're like, wait a minute, she's not supposed to refuse a guest's seduction.
She's a pleasure bot.
And then the next day, Black Knight confronts our human dude, and we get into sword fight.
Yeah, but it's not the way we anticipate. Like, I think at one point they're like, oh, it's the guy's last day. Let's send him off on a big, like a showstopper.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. So it's your last day there. You're going to have a big fight in the morning. Presumably you get to win. You get to sleep with the queen. Then you get to go home.
Yeah.
But I love it. He's like poking around at the leftovers from the breakfast table.
Yeah.
Buns, no sword in hand. And this Black Knight is just like picking for a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, Black Knight ready, and Black Knight go, and violence.
Mm-hmm.
But again, what are the protocols, Jeffrey? Like, if that knight had been operating correctly and there were still fights, like, are they like pulling their punches? So like, avast ye.
Yeah.
Go to hit somebody, but it's not like full force hit. It's like, it's more of a boop or a tap.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it makes more sense with gunplay than it does with swords and shields.
Yes.
Because if somebody is attacking you with a sword, you have to defend yourself, or else you're going to get hit in the face.
Yes.
But with a gun, it's a little more nebulous. You can miss, you can misfire.
Gun, you can give all the robots blanks, actually.
Right.
Because
or
theoretically,
make them terrible, or make them bad aims.
Yeah. And here, they've given him a very sharp sword. They didn't even like dull the sword, because like the sword can do damage even if it's dull, obviously,
Yeah.
because you just poke somebody with a metal pipe and it's gonna fucking
Yeah.
hurt. But they give him a full sword, wherein this fight turns aggressive and he
Yeah.
stabs this human right square in the belly.
In the guts.
And the control booth is like, shut down immediately.
Shut it all
Shut it all
down.
down.
And they waited until this. I was like, wow. I also was like, how many people are in Westworld? Like, how many people are they? This is my logical brain just being like, how many people are they watching, guests? And how many control people are watching those guests? Like, because if it's taken you this long to realize that there's like critical malfunction
I got
happening.
this. I got the sense that there was like like a dozen people in each of the worlds. There's probably like 30 some odd humans at the park at a given time. But that's a lot to monitor at all times.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just the notion of like you go on this vacation thing, and every step of the way, every second of your day, it's not just while you're at the park. Your whole life is at the park. Even at night, you're gonna have cameras on you. You go sleep with a robot prostitute. She's in your bed that night. Cameras on in your room.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's
it's just like
crazy.
I thought that was really interesting, the idea that there's sort of nighttime hours are municipal maintenance hours versus the sort of 24-hour experience. Like, why do they have to go in and clean up the bodies in the morning? You know, why don't they have a robot undertaker do that?
That's right. Because it's so expensive to repair these things all the time, you just never find yourself, you know, it's like when you have to pay rent every month, you're like, oh, I'm never going to be able to save up the money to get the thing that I want.
Well, I was just thinking more about continuity of theme.
Yeah, totally.
You know, like if I just am coming out of the saloon at 1 o'clock in the morning and I see a bunch of, you know, hazmat suits carrying bodies away, I'm like, oh no, my illusion is spoiled. I want my money back. Or, you know, like it seems like such an easy fix. One of the things that I also wished there were more of were side quests. Like, these guys are real boring. Like, they're really like, they are happy that they just get to shoot people and get in a fist fight and drink and sleep with robot ladies. And I was like, is there no, this is the depth of humanity we're dealing with.
This is where it feels like a single episode one-off of a show rather than a film. It just doesn't, there's no economy to the script that allows the richness and depth to happen in the time that they have. I mean, that's what makes a film so special as opposed to a television show, wherein a film really needs to be, I mean, a TV show needs to be pretty deliberate about every word, but there is a thing in film wherein like your whole world, your whole arc has to be captured in 2 hours. And you need a richness and a depth and a depth that you can contain in that time period. And so there's a thing where it just shorts us on that. It shorts us on the side quests, which I think side quests, even with John and Peter, could actually make these two boys more interesting.
Right, exactly.
Like if you saw John helping like say like a native woman from robot black hats or something, you know, or you saw some other thing happening, like a moral conundrum, you know, something that if you saw him fall in love with a woman who is not real or something.
Like I wondered, you know, like what would happen. I don't know. For me, I would have had a much better vacation with my friend if they're like, oh, there's a bank robbery. Okay, you be a bad guy and I'm going to be a good guy. You know, it's like when you go see Sleep No More, don't stand next to your friend. No, go explore by yourself. Go have other adventures. But these two guys are pretty basic. They're like, nope. Nope. We're just happy that we're not in the Midwest or something.
I was so surprised. I think a path that I really thought this movie was going to go down at the beginning, when we learned that Peter is divorced and he's still holding on to his wife. They have that first night where he sleeps with, you know, a pleasure bot. And he starts to try to have a conversation with her, and it kind of gets
Yeah.
shut down, like in the way that a sex worker might shut down the conversation. Like, we're here to have pleasure times. Like, you're paying for pleasure. Let me take
Sit
your
back
mind
and
off
relax.
of this other thing.
Yeah.
In this case, I thought it would have been a really interesting character growth thing to have him not understand the difference between a robot and a person, like to find new love in another. I don't know. There's a lot of complications that you could explore. We never get very complicated in this movie at all.
No, we don't.
No. So now we have the bar fight scene where total saloon bar fight.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Silly. I mean, this is straight out of Blazing Saddles.
It's so goofy.
I mean, like literally it starts with the guys in the control room being like, and bar fight, go.
Yes. It's just your classic, like, chairs easily breaking over backs, people jumping over bars. Peter
Card
picks
tables.
up a guy, slides him down the bar, whatever. Super
but again,
fun.
I'm like, it's fun, but I'm like, is this really the experience? You're paying people to get beat up?
Yeah.
Is this like Fight Club?
It's just so old in its concept. Like, we've seen all of this before.
Yeah.
And so it just feels cliche. Like, there's nothing new happening that explores what it would be fun to do in a place like this. It's a little like watching old stand-up where they're like, what's the deal with airline food? And you're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, and again, it's also so stereotypically straight male.
Yes,
like
totally.
What do men want to do? They want to fuck, they want to fight. That's the ideal vacation. No shades of gray. Nobody wants to be a hero. They just want to appear. Like even our sort of Dick Van Patten character who wants to be the sheriff, like he's terrible at it, and he's just like pretending to be the alpha male.
Yep. Well, the next morning they wake up completely
hung over.
They can barely move. It's just like,
which again, I'm like, that's real whiskey. Like,
yeah,
you can't like, okay, you know what? Whatever.
I mean, listen, that's what we do on vacations. You get the all you can drink pass on the cruise ship, and
That's
you're like,
right.
yes,
You get a little crazy.
Yep.
But the gunslinger is back for a third time,
and he shows up. I do love this moment because Yul Brynner shows back up. We had just seen on their last surgery with him, they upgraded his visual cortex.
Yep.
And increased his audio sensitivity.
Oh.
So they just made him like super gunslinger. So he shows back up. And I do love the reaction from these two guys is like, oh, dude, not right now. Just not now. It's like when Siri jumps in to your conversation. You're like, no, I didn't ask you, Siri.
He's like, do you want to take care of him? No, I got this one. Can I shoot him this time?
Yep.
But things do not go as planned.
No. Before John can get his gun drawn, Yul just shoots him right in the chest. And he's like, I'm shot. He gets shot again. Now he's dead.
Yeah.
He is dead in the dirt. And Peter is like, oh, fuck. And then now we have
the second half of the movie.
Right. The second half of the movie, thankfully, moves a little bit more quickly than the first because things are happening.
Yeah.
But, this is where we get like slow chase scene. Yul Brynner is a great Michael Myers style slow
Terminator
chaser.
2.
Perfect. I love him.
Also, I will say Yul Brynner has the best butt I have seen in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he looks so good.
He's so strangely attractive. He's a very odd looking man to me. Yeah. Like the shape of his head, like he has a very large head.
Oh yeah.
But face, but like not in a gross or unappealing way. Like he just is. He's got these beautiful steely eyes in this movie too. And
in this they put the contact, the Westworld contacts in.
Yeah, but it just
so
accentuates that. Yeah,
and it's so interesting watching him play a spoof on a character. No, like apparently Yul Brynner was in like dire financial straits and took this movie at like a definite pay cut, but he was like, I just need cash. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting watching an icon play a twisted variation on a character that he made iconic.
Yes.
You know? Like how fascinating. And I think that's where like we're dealing in camp a little bit, but unfortunately it's straight man camp, so we're not getting to get real campy. But like that's about as deep as it goes. But I love that idea that it's like, I don't know, hiring a Betty Davis to play a version of a character that she played when she was younger, and she made the mold. Like Yul Brynner made the mold of Black Hat Cowboy.
Yes.
Just the like made that. And now it's 20 years later.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, same, but you're a robot as well.
That's right. We get a glimpse into the back rooms, right? With all the scientists and programmers, and so they're pointing out like we have lost all control over the robots. They are no longer, they are running on their reserve power, which is about 10 to 12 hours.
Okay.
And they're killing all the guests, and we see footage of people just bodies, pandemonium.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. And also they are locked inside that control room with 18% oxygen, and it's like 95 degrees, and I'm like, y'all are very calm for a bunch of people that are about ready to die.
Yeah
Like one dude kind of like tries to elbow the door, and I was like, no sir. I would be up in the ducts. I don't know what I would do, but I would be like, this computer is going down.
Yep.
Shut it. I would be like with a chair going after that computer. Ooh, another note. This movie does wall of bleeps and bloops so fucking good.
Oh, it's so good.
Like every surface is covered with lights that do absolutely nothing, or buttons, or the fucking screensavers, Jeffrey. The like geometric screensavers. I was like, that doesn't mean anything, but it looks so good.
This is up there with Destroy All Monsters for having bleeps and bloops. Walls of bleeps and bloops is so good.
Just the best walls of light up buttons that do absolutely nothing.
I love it. There's this horse chase through the canyon or whatever, and Peter runs across another park employee.
Yes.
Who essentially says the machines have all gone crazy. If he's after you, you haven't got a chance because he's recently upgraded, blah, blah, blah. The thing the park employee doesn't say to him, because the park employee is in such a panic.
Yeah.
But if this park employee had just thought for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Your goal is you just have to stay free for 12 hours. This is the classic put a clock on it in script writing.
Sure.
They just gave us the time frame.
Yep. 10 hours.
This is a cool action movie. You have to survive. This is kind of like, Most Dangerous Game type of principle. You've got a head start on the island.
Yep.
I'm coming to kill you. If you last this long, you win. Seemed to be like, that's what he's supposed, in my mind, as the script writer, you're supposed to say that. You're supposed to say, you just got to outlast him 12 hours. Put a clock on it. That's suspenseful. They don't. He just like, you're fucked. But it's actually the park employee who's fucked.
Yeah, because Yul Brynner's just going on a killing spree.
Yeah.
But also like the lack of humanity, like shit is falling apart behind the scenes. And there's no like, oh my God, another human, thank God. It's like this park employee is unconcerned.
Yes.
Unconcerned with an actual person when confronted with an actual person.
Yeah.
Like none of this like, oh my God, you have a horse. Can we ride away together? I know where an exit is. I know. I'm an employee. I know where all the service tunnels are. Nope. None of that.
No, there's just a total lack of imagination of what to do with this guy other than to be a harbinger.
Yeah.
But I'm like, the time for harbingers is done. We as the audience know these things are dangerous. I don't need the blind man at the beginning of Friday the 13th part 3 to be like, that lake
that
is
robot's
dangerous.
Gonna get you.
Yeah.
Like the time for that was like 40 minutes ago.
Yeah. We're done with harbingers. Harbingers are done now. We already know
we're into the final chase scene.
Yes. Well, and that's the other thing is the park employee is trying to repair his broken down golf cart because he's trying to get out of town.
Where's he going? Where's he gonna go?
Well, that I think to your point, he probably knows where the exits are. So like, why
Right?
wouldn't he be like, listen, you have a
Come with
horse,
me.
come
Come
with
with me
me.
if you want
If
to
you
live.
let me ride on your horse, I will
Yeah.
show you how to get out of
We're
here.
getting out of here.
Character's useless. So Peter makes it to Roman world.
Yep.
Sees the carnage there.
Yep.
Finds the duct that leads down the tunnel downward into the control rooms.
We're behind the mirror. We're through the looking glass.
The one thing the park employee tells him, the only reason he's there is to say, like, the only way really to stop him is his visual sensors.
Yes.
Is if you threw like acid on him.
For instance,
just saying.
Just spitballing here.
And the hilarious part is Peter gets downstairs into the like robot hospital ward.
Yeah.
And there on the desk is like a jar of clearly labeled acid. I'm like, why
like
do
7
you
different kinds?
Why do you
kinds.
have this? What
I know, right?
What do you do with the acid?
Are you doing? Yeah, I know. And why are you just keeping it casually in a glass jar on your desk and not locked away?
It's so weird. I just don't. It's so crazy. Anyways,
no,
Peter,
I love this. I want to talk about the set piece of the operating room, because this is like, again, the TV show takes this and then essentially like modernizes it.
Yeah.
But I love this. This is like 1973 technology in which, like, so you have like, a horse or a woman in a sort of, Westerny getup lying on a table, but you have like high grade 1973 science around them, which is less impressive to us because we live in the year of our Lord 2023. But like, this is such a cool set piece. This like long gray hallway with seeming people laid out on tables, but they're in fact merchandise. And this like juxtaposition of old and new, the like old Westerny bit and then the new technology. I love it. And there's like, I love this sort of, what we're going to get to the final showdown happens here. Like, what a great set piece.
Yeah.
It's cold, it's sterile. They've taken something which is like such as, the idea of going back to the 1800s and something that's so ripe with promise and humanity, and they have just like made it about booze and boobs and bullets.
He is in this long hallway of this medical corridor, and he hears Yule coming, and so he does the classic trick of like, let me pretend to be an android on a table.
Yes.
But Yule sniffs him out, figures it out because he makes a noise. But when he turns,
he breathes hell loud.
He does. He's a little out of breath.
It's a bit of a mouth breather.
He's still very hungover, so
that's right.
Give him that. Yeah.
Yes.
And so when Yule turns to him, he throws the acid in Yule's face. His face is melting.
Very Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
Oh, my beautiful evil.
So now we're at slow chase into medieval world.
Well, yeah, and he doesn't stop he just like walks away, and like this actor, like, I really like Richard Benjamin as an actor, but like some of the choices here are just baffling to me. He's like, I've thrown acid in your face. Whew, well, I'm going to casually stroll through Killbot Village.
Right.
Because if there's one Killbot, surely there's no more Killbots. But like, he doesn't check to make sure the gunslinger is dead or incapacitated, or I don't know, you're literally sitting in a room filled with tools that could dismantle him. Like, come on, son.
Yeah. It's this movie, I think its greatest sin, besides lack of style, is the lack of urgency.
Yeah.
This
is a stroll.
Yeah.
They're going to stroll to the building that's on fire. They're going to stroll from the robot that's trying to kill you.
The reason why Michael Myers' slow walk works is because Laurie Strode is in a panic. She is running to the next house. She is banging on the door, and he is just slow walking her way. and you think I could get away from that, but then you realize all the ways out are not there for her.
You're in a locked box.
And so what makes the slow walk, the slow pursuer only works if the pursued is filled with urgency.
Yeah.
And this man is not filled with the urgency I would anticipate. No. He is not Laurie Strode.
No, nor is he. I mean, it's also not It Follows. You know, the idea that you can go anywhere you want in this world, but it knows where you are and it is slowly coming to get you at a snail's pace, but it will find you.
Yes.
Which again, I'm like going back to It Follows. I'm just like, y'all just put your back up against a wall and wait.
Yep.
Hunter hunted. Yo.
Also, can that thing get on a plane? I mean, I would just fly to New Zealand or something and be like, I live here now.
Right. You're like, okay, look, I live on Shutter Island now.
Yep.
Good luck. But no, it's very and I guess I think it speaks to a time when especially filmmaking and narratives and stories and society and all of that is so like patriarchal.
Yeah.
And that he's like, job done. Woof.
I did
coffee
it.
break. I did it. I am mostly maybe sure that I have solved the problem. I'm sure somebody else will clean up after me. So I'm just going to go have a look back, have a little lark, have a little look around.
I never got to really look at Medieval World. This place is cool. That's what he kind of does. It seems like all the other robots have lost power, right? Because we see the Black Knight and the Queen sitting in their thrones, and they are not moving at all.
Yeah.
It's only the gunslinger who is this determined, right? And you one of the cool special effects of this movie at a 1973 level special effect that I love is when we get to see the gunslinger's point of view, which is a really super low res, like you can see the individual pixels of the screen. But I think it's a really cool way of showing what he sees.
Yeah.
But now that he's lost his eyesight, he no longer has the visual cortex, but he does have an infrared that he switches to. So now we see bubbles of light, red and yellow lights on the screen. And he is tracking Peter through infrared, and Peter ends up getting caught standing right next to one of the torches in the dining hall area. Mm-hmm. And he realizes, oh shit, he can't see me. It's a great realization. Love that it's a classic use, really nicely staged. But Peter, of course, like coughs
5 minutes
or
of
like
that,
farts or something.
He like knocks over a goblet.
That's it.
Fucking hell, man. We had to sit through that whole cat and mouse thing, and then you just like step on a plate.
Idiot.
Stupid. Well, he sets it and just sets you know what machines don't like? They don't like fire.
They don't
not like fire. Again, I'm like, finish the job you start, son.
Yeah. He turns the torch onto
like,
Yul Brynner. We get awesome stuntman action here.
Oh my god.
This stuntman is fully engulfed, flailing about the room. I love how many quick cuts there are of the stuntman, because you obviously cannot keep that man lit very long.
Many times.
Yeah.
And Peter just strolls away.
Yeah.
Nope, not gonna finish it. Nope,
he's done. Very clearly this guy who I've shot multiple times in the last 90 minutes is totally dead.
Acid, fire, surely that'll do it, right?
Yep. So Peter is leaving and he hears a woman's voice, help me. No. And he sees a fair maiden tied up in a prison cell, and he goes to unchain her to save her. This is one of the few moments that I was thinking about that I thought the movie would deal more with, right?
Yeah.
But he takes this woman down and he's like, let me get you some water. She's like, no water. No water. No.
Like, I'm trying to help you. Can't you see I'm trying to accept my help, woman?
Yeah, that's totally what the scene is.
Yeah.
This woman is like, no water, no water.
See, your car is broken down the side of the road. May I step in and show you how I can fix this for you?
Yeah. It's really kind of gross.
I'm sorry.
It's gross the way he continues to try and help. someone he perceives as an actual woman, not a robot.
Yeah.
Like, and then
Which again, it's like, is he just dim? Or is it like, is he
it's
really like he's in full savior mode?
it's just, I think, the classic way of like the romantic way of thinking about male chivalry
Yeah.
is such a sexist concept, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a thing about being nice, there's a thing about showing appreciation, and then there's overstepping the bounds wherein a woman does not want that attention. And no matter how noble you think you're being, like, yes, pull over to help a woman with a flat tire on the side of the
Yeah.
road, and she's like,
But
please
if she
don't.
says she's got it,
I've got it,
she's
please
got it.
don't. And you
Yeah.
keep doing that, you're now a threat to her. You're no
Mhm.
longer, your gift is a curse.
Yeah.
Well, she short circuits, and then charred Yul Brynner comes out
Oh
of
my
nowhere.
God.
Our one and only jump scare. You think he's gonna do something, but no, he just kind of just falls down.
Just
The end.
TikTok wind down. And he falls. And this is like, I mean, what a great climactic ending. It's like his face falls out.
Uh-huh.
He like catches on fire. It's like there's sparklers. Because I think after 3 fucking fake out deaths, we need to know
Yes.
that this gunslinger is offline.
Yes, we absolutely do need to know that. And we seem pretty sure that he is officially dead, and now we're left with just Peter sitting on the dungeon steps being like, well, fucking A, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then we hear the Delos ad, like, boy, have we got a vacation for you.
And then the
The
use sort of
end.
and then the use sort of like becomes robotic. It like gets filtered through a bunch of sound reverberation, so it sounds like a robot. You're like,
Yeah, of
are you
course.
the robot? Are we the robot, Jeffrey? Are we robots?
We are the robots.
Were we the robots the whole time? The friends we made along the way?
That's right. That's right.
Are we the robots we made along the way?
Well, let's figure out oh no, not figure out what we're gonna watch next, but we will do that. Let's rate this film. What do you say?
Sure, why not?
So, Sasha scale, our squeamish approachability scale for the horror averse. How approachable is this movie if you don't generally do horror films? I'll give it a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all approachable and 10 being easily approachable for the horror averse. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give Westworld like 9 bottles of unlabeled booze, right? It is PG sci-fi, made for TV level of drama and terror. And in fact, like, we watched an actual made for TV movie and trilogy of terror, which is much scarier than this, way more scary. I think the hardest edge this movie really has is the booze they drink. Like,
I know, right?
the depiction of a hangover is pretty solid. I'm like, the please not today gunslinger moment.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I've been that level of hungover. Like, there's almost no blood. There's just that one jump scare, which doesn't feel that jumpy. It's all very tame on a horror level. It's got some interesting existential question, and Yul Brynner's kind of sort of scary as the slow walking gunslinger,
the unstoppable force.
Yeah, but I can't imagine if you're horror averse that you're going to be at all frightened by this. Like, it sounds pretty safe to say if you've watched the TV show of this, you absolutely could handle this thing.
Yeah.
So, 9 out of 10 in terms of approachability. What about you, Cecil, as a horror film?
As a horror film, I mean, this is peripheral at best.
Yeah.
This is definitely sci-fi rather than horror. However, I think there's a lot of ideas, the groundwork for a lot of ideas that are, like you said, sort of existential scare. The idea of like, how do we treat each other?
Yeah.
What happens when you give somebody a gun and tell them it's carte blanche, you can do whatever you want?
Yeah.
And then watch the glee in their face. That's a bit scary. So, however, the blood is super red, very, very candy apple red. There's no bullet. Like, you don't see any kind of anatomy. Like, this is not that film. So for that reason, lots of good ideas, but it is definitely a walk, don't run kind of pace.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm going to give it 3 bolo ties.
I love it. Let's figure out what we'll watch next. You have a scare die. I have a style die. I will call you back later, spam risk. Thank you.
Oh,
You have a scare die. I have a style die. We will you'll roll that scare die up, and whatever scare you get will match to whatever style I roll up, and then we'll pick a movie that matches those two things. So on your scare die, Cecil, if you roll a 1, our next movie scare is Bad Mom, Bad Dad, something with a terrible family. 2, a vampire. 3, a ghost. If you roll a 4, society is our scare. 5, aquatic. 6, witchy. What is our scare?
that's a 5.
Finally going to get that aquatic scare we've always wanted.
Ooh,
Be the aquatic scare you wish to see in the world.
that's right.
Let's pick an aquatic style. If I roll a 1, our style is giallo. That's interesting. If I roll a 2, it is film about film. 3, our style is a 1970s movie. 4, sequel plus. 5, a rural film. Or 6, Japanese horror. So let's figure out our style. I got a 2, film on film, aquatic. Okay, so let's have a look at some movies that we thought might fit aquatic and films about films, and then we'll also check in with whatever ideas that our letterbox followers might have had too. So, one I wrote down was Cloverfield. Technically, that monster came from the ocean.
Sure.
I don't know that this movie really deals with the aquatic side of things, but in the way that Godzilla is an aquatic monster.
Godzilla comes from the monster, or comes from the water.
Comes from the water. You put this one on here, I believe. Open Water?
Open Water is about a couple that go scuba diving, and they get separated from their group. The boat departs, and then they're just surrounded by sharks. But it seems like it's shot in a very kind of like handheld camera sort of way. I don't know if this is a found footage film or not. It may not be, but it looks like it should be a found footage kind of movie. So is it about film? It definitely gets the aquatic brief, but the film on film, questionable.
Yeah. Okay, so Brave Crab throws out on Letterboxd. Brave Crab throws out The Bay from 2012.
Brave Crab, Weaponized Toaster, Josh Ludd. We definitely have like a lot of people saying The Bay, and I second, third, and fourth all of those.
Yeah, because that is a found footage horror film, and it is about some kind of brain eating something or other coming
some sort
from
of water
the bay.
disease that comes from water. And it's I think sounds super scary, low budget, or like lo-fi horror.
Ganymede's Cup also threw out Open Water, but again, I'm not sure how it'll be like film about film.
No, wait. Ganymede's Cup actually goes that this movie is based on a true story. In the end, all we are left with is the couple's camera. So I guess it is a Noroi. We found this footage of Blair Witch.
Oh, interesting.
We just found this footage and we're watching holiday footage gone horribly, horribly wrong. So thank you, Ganymede's Cup, for backing me up that this is in fact a film on film aquatic for Open Water.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, cool. Let's see here.
Oh, and then Katie also recommended The Deep House, submerged house, very much part of the scare, and it's about a YouTube couple filming their trip to the water. So again, making use of the found footage genre. And The Deep House has been on a lot of recent horror lists. Like it's been on the dice a couple times, but everybody's like super scary, claustrophobic, if going underwater and being trapped to explore a house that's underwater that may be haunted, ?
Oh, interesting.
Is your bag, then it sounds hella scary.
Interesting. Okay. That sounds fascinating to me.
And Josh Ludd also threw out Cannibal Holocaust, the Amazon River being the water there. It's an unpopular film, says it's historically significant, which is a very true fact.
Yes, totally. Okay, so and obviously I think the one that fits this brief really well that we've already done is Anaconda. It is a water creature, and it is about filmmakers. Like it's not a found footage film.
Yeah.
I'm kind of intrigued. Like, I don't want to exclude found footage from this, but I'm sort of intrigued with a movie that deals with filmmakers. Like King Kong is a film
Yeah.
about film,
Yeah.
in a way. So it's about the show business of this monster. So in that way, I'm kind of intrigued by the Deep House, because that's not a found footage film, I don't believe. Technically, I think it is actually a film.
Yes, it's like they're making something for a YouTube channel, which I
Yes.
think is more to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Although the Bay sounds awful good.
The Bay does sound pretty good.
I feel like that's going to be much more found footagey. Like they're not. I mean, I don't know the scenario.
It's not found footage so much as like a documentary style. Like it's like Lake Mungo was, right? Like that sort of thing. Yeah, this is a Barry Levinson joint, and this is dealing with kind of a plague sort of thing, right? Like this is
like brain eating microbes.
Yeah. I think those are the two I'm most intrigued with, is the Bay, the Deep House. Like the Bay is a modern classic.
Yeah.
I think it's a classic of like 21st century horror. And the Deep House just sounds really intriguing. It sounds really scary. I think I would really be interested.
Let's watch the Deep House.
Yeah, I was thinking about our recent movies we've watched, and we've watched some good ones, but we're on a streak of like
funny,
Perfect Blue is scary, but not in the classic horror sense. Like it is thriller scary, upsettingly scary.
Yeah, we have had a lot of thrillers, haven't we?
Mm-hmm. Like
rather than horror.
I would say of our last like 10, like since Funny Games 12 episodes ago, I think the scariest movie we watched was VHS, which is really good. Scary, scare. But
it's also nice after watching a movie from 1973 that feels very 1973. Let's go to something that was made like last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a French horror film too. So that's probably suggests that it's going to be real fucked up with my experience of French horror.
That nouveau French horror.
So yeah, we're going to do the Deep House, right?
Great.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for that suggestion. I'm glad we're going to do hopefully a very scary movie. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if y'all have thoughts on Westworld or ideas for other movies that would have been good, aquatic scare meets films about filmmaking, let us know on Instagram at randomhorror9 and watch The Deep House from 2021 with us this weekend. Come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no robot rattlesnakes biting your arm or nothing. Boo.
Boo.